Hello everyone, this video is the first one on the series that will construct the base for everything we'll be seeing later. It contains the basics of playing any first-person shooter from the very beginning. This first part will treat movement. Movement and aiming may be a little basic topics for the ones with more experience in playing this kind of games, so you can skip this part if you want to. Although I think it's always good to go back to the basics in order to have nice roots for constructing your technique. So let's get to it. The first thing we'll be seeing is moving around. When you first start playing any video game, it usually comes with a tutorial that explains the basic controls of the game. For example, we have this one in Valorant that helps you move around, pick up weapons, look with your mouse and defuse bombs. It's pretty straightforward. The same with Apex Legends, where it goes a little deeper because the movement and general mechanics of the game is a little bit more complicated. Now, let's focus on the main aspects of movement of any first-person shooter game. I will go step by step in order to get to everyone, especially those who have never played first-person shooters before. The basic movement keys are WASD, with W to go forward, S to go backward, A to go left, and D to go right. If you're playing with a controller, your left stick is the one that makes all these movements. You probably know this, but dominating these keys is really important in order to do some more complex combination, and I've seen a lot of players that are not completely aware of the importance of this basic movement. Let me explain a little bit. In keyboard, if you go circling around ASDW, 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 you'll start circling counterclockwise or to your left. If you start going DSAW, 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 you'll start circling clockwise or to your right. I recommend you to practice this a little bit, so your fingers know where each key is. Your index finger has more dominance over your ring finger, so probably it will be a little easier to go clockwise or to your right than the other way. That's why I suggest you to practice both sides. You can play around a little bit until you feel comfortable with it. I don't recommend you to go way too fast on the circling. Take some time on pressing each key. If you do it fast, the movement will be really small, thus making you vibrate on the standing spot, making you an easy target. So, for starters, make long movements and adjust the speed to something you feel comfortable. You don't want to go too slow either, so try to get some balance and try to do it as similar as I'm doing it right now. If you're playing with a controller, the exercise is a little bit different, because the circling motion is really easy to do with your thumb. You'll want to exercise going a single direction by going straight forward, straight backward, to your left and to your right. That will draw a cross in your stick. Try some combination of these straight movements so you feel comfortable. Avoid diagonal movements for now. For the next exercise, you will want to go right and left, or AD on keyboard, so you get to look something like this. See what I'm doing with this wall? It lets me see my enemy for a split second, and that is a bit of information. The movement we just saw is called strafing, and is vastly used by professional players, because it has a very strong potential and is not that hard to dominate, but of course, it requires practice. The circling exercise will help you loose your fingers and accommodate to your keyboard or your analog stick. It's not meant to be done in the middle of a fight, because it's easy to predict and the movement is a bit slow, but it will help you to quickly change direction or to escape from dangerous situations. On the other hand, strafing with AD or left-right is a strong tool to be used in combat. You can use it with a cover to pick on your opponent and shoot them, or in open ground to become a harder target to hit. That's why you want to practice different tempos, so if your opponent is good, it's still going to be hard for them to predict how are you going to move next. I recommend you now to play a little bit with this movement, going in circles, strafing, circling one direction and switching to the other one like this, varying your tempo. You don't want to be like a metronome that can be counted, because that will be easy for your opponent to predict. so you will want to do short steps, long steps, pressing quickly or making some time between movements. Now we are going to see jumping. Jumps usually work different from game to game, but still there are some similarities. You can jump with spacebar or your lower button of your button pad on controller. When you jump, your aiming decreases a lot, so always avoid jumping and shooting. It's only on very rare cases that you will be jump shooting around. On the heat of the fight, you will probably try to jump a lot to avoid shots, but doing so reduces your chances to land your shots to the minimum, and that probably will get you knocked. When you jump, you become an easy target because your opponent can predict where you will land with not much effort, so don't do it. Jumping also makes a sound when you fall in the ground, so that's something you should consider if you're trying to sneak. Okay, so now it comes to question, when should I jump? Jumping is mainly used to get the high ground, and if you've seen Star Wars, you probably know the importance of that. High ground in first-person shooters is a key component for winning fights, so you will want to get to it as much as you can, and jumping is the way to do so. It's also used to go over certain terrain like small fences, boxes, walls, etc. Every game has different mechanics for jumping, some are pretty limited. For example, in Valorant and Counter-Strike, jumping gets you only a little bit higher, but still, it really makes a difference. On the other hand, Apex Legends has a really complex movement system that allows you to climb, jump on walls, hang on ledges, jump kicking, and so on. Call of Duty Warzone has a more quote, realistic way of jumping, where you can jump over small objects like walls and fences. What you want to do is to explore the possibilities of jumping. What does the mechanics of the game you're playing allow you to do? It will totally depend on the game you're playing, so I won't get more in depth with this matter. For now, I really recommend you to explore and check the limits of jumping. It really helps to work your flexibility for in-game movement, where you can and where you cannot get by jumping. You might be surprised of where jumping will get you. Alright, next movement. Crouching. Crouching in every first-person shooter works similar. It improves your aim, makes you a smaller target, and slows greatly your movement. You can crouch by pressing C or left control. On controller, crouching is done usually by pressing the right button of your button pad. The sound of your footsteps while crouching is silent, which is a good thing for sneaking or hiding from your opponents. Also, crouching works great when you want to take cover. The game mechanics might add something to the previous formula. For example, in Apex Legends or Call of Duty Warzone, when you crouch while running, you can slide. That adds a new component for your combination of movements. When you apply crouching well, it will help you to get some advantage over your opponent during the fight, but consider that being a small target makes your head easier to shoot, so don't make it your trick for every fight. The next movement is walking. Walking is used mainly to reposition yourself silently. It's a little bit faster than crouching and works great when you want to move fast without making a sound. You can walk by just pressing movement keys, and in some games with auto run activated you have to press shift. On controller, you have to move slightly your analog in the direction you want to walk. It's used to take a break to think after a long run or to flank your opponents in small areas or maps. For some games, it's barely used and it doesn't give much advantage. In others, it's one of the main mechanics. It will totally depend on the game you're playing. The last movement is sprinting. Sprinting may or may not be activated. If sprinting is enabled, it's usually done by going forward and pressing shift key or left analog button. Notice that you can only sprint by going forward. Sprinting is used when you want to get from one point to another very fast. Your aim while sprinting is minimum. Only some weapons let you shoot and sprint reliably and only in short range. In most games, you can't shoot at all. Sprinting makes a lot of sound, so be aware of it because that will reveal your position. On the other hand, it will help you know where your opponents are and where they are going. Always pay attention of people running nearby. It can help you position yourself for an ambush. You want to sprint in three main situations. First one is when you want to move to another place on a big map, or you are rotating positions on small maps and you know there are no opponents nearby. Second one is when you want to take them by surprise quickly, before they realize where you're coming from. And third one, you're in a fight in a bad position, probably low ground or you got caught by surprise. This gives you only a small window to run and take cover. Now that we have seen all basic movements, I want to make something clear. In first-person shooters, there are three types of horizontal movement: walking, running, and sprinting. I didn't mention running because it's usually the normal speed you move when you're pressing WASD while moving around. Walking is slower and sprinting is going at full speed. This may sound a little confusing, but don't worry, you'll quickly know how the mechanics of the game you're playing works after some playing. In this video, we have seen the 5 basic movements in any first-person shooter. They are the means that define how are you going to move in the virtual space, and dominating these 5 aspects will define how are you going to use movement for your advantage, which will be decisive on how many fights you will win in the future. I recommend you now to explore the mechanics of the game you're playing, practice some exercises and try to break the limits of what you think you can do by moving on the map. Ask yourself questions like, can I reach that spot? How long does it take me to go to that place? Can I walk around this building or this zone? Can I crouch behind this box, rock or whatever? What happens when I jump and then crouch before landing? Can I move while I'm in the air? These kind of questions will help you move in ways that your opponents can't predict. That will put you in certain advantage and you'll see how much you will improve only because you're moving in a smart way. Try to sneak around or run on someone and take them by surprise. Hear their footsteps and wait them where you know they are going to be. Many games have their own techniques for moving. One example is bunny hopping, that's done by jumping and strafing at the same time and makes you move real quick in short spaces. Crouch stand shooting is another one that makes you a really hard target to hit while improving your own aim. That's all for now. You got the tools, now it's your turn to use them. Make your own style of moving around and use it for your advantage. The next main topic we are going to see is aiming. I'm Kapua Synth, thank you for watching and have a nice day.
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!